Hello, everyone. Super excited to be here today to share with you all my Tableau knowledge. I've been using Tableau for about 10 years now. I know I look super young. I did actually start using Tableau when I was 18 in school as a student, and I learned it on my own, and it's pretty much formed the pathway for my career journey. And today I am the Vice President of Data Visualization for Lovelytics, a data company based out of Arlington, Virginia. And the Tableau Zen Master title is actually given from the company. So I didn't just, use it just to use it because it sounds good. It's actually one that's provided by the company. They have a board that selects about 30 individuals or 30 experts around the world who specialize in Tableau. And I was fortunate enough to have the recognition for the past 2 years now. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and provide you all with a brief introduction about Tableau. So Tableau is a data analytics and a data visualization tool that allows you to explore data and visualize it and really tell your story. The things that I love about Tableau is that not only can you create a really nice visualization, a compelling story, but you can get very detailed and analyze your data very thoroughly before you even start to create a visualization. Now, there are several products within the Tableau product suite. One of them is Tableau Desktop, and that is the local version of Tableau. It's also referred to as Tableau Creator. And what you're able to do is you're able to import data that is either on a database or local to your machine and analyze data locally. So the demo today will be done in Tableau Desktop. However, there is a free version of Tableau, which is called Tableau Public. And with that, you can download the app, the Tableau Public app, but the data that you're accessing has to be local to your computer, and it also has to be non-confidential information, because in order to save your what we call a Tableau workbook, it has to be published to your Tableau Public portfolio. So a Tableau Public portfolio is simply a gallery of all visualizations that you have shared online for the world to see. And right now I'm showing you my Tableau Public portfolio here. This is all non-confidential information. But if you wanted to use Tableau for free, I say all that to say Tableau Public is the way to go. You can also share visualizations for free directly through Tableau Public. However, if you're working with proprietary information, then you definitely want to stick to Tableau Desktop. So with that, I'm actually going to go ahead and step into Tableau Desktop. So the first thing you'll see when you open up the screen for Tableau Desktop is you have 3 panels here. You have Connect, Open, and Discover. On the left-hand side, because we're in Tableau Desktop, we can either connect to data using a file, so a local file on our PC, or we can connect to data on a server. The data that we're working with today is stored in a text file or a CSV file. If you wanted to connect to data that was on a server, you can simply select more, and you can connect to hundreds of locations of hundreds of databases, basically, wherever it's located at. I've used Dropbox, I've used Box, I've used Google Analytics and Google Sheets. Those are some of the ones that some of the clients that I work with use the most. But then you also have your standard SQL Server database, MySQL database, and other databases that you can connect to that just are not here. For this demo, we are connecting to data that is local on our PC or on my PC. So I'm going to go ahead and select text file. And the data that I downloaded, if you all are familiar with it, or if you're not familiar with it, this is a preview of it. It's the PPP data for loans that were 150 plus, where you have information related to the loan range, the business name, the address, the city, the state, the zip code, the business type, race, ethnicity, gender, veteran, nonprofit flag, the jobs retained. This is actually populated. I just had it filtered. The date that the loan was approved, and then the lender of the loan. So this is the data that we'll be working with today. So when I navigate back to Tableau, you simply just have to locate that file. Because it's a text file, I had to make sure that I was selecting text. Sometimes you think a CSV opens up in Excel, right? And you can just select Excel. Well, that's where a lot of new users kind of get hung up. If you select Microsoft Excel, you will not see this data set because it is a CSV file. So that's why I selected text file, and that's why I'm able to now see the data. So the first step within Tableau, you have to read your data. It's a read-only software for the most part. I say that because we have developed solutions where you can write back to a database, but out of the box, the solution is only read-only, meaning you're reading data. You can't write in data or input data like you can in Excel. So you can't create data within Tableau. You can only read and analyze it. So I'll go ahead and select Open. Now, once you've selected the data, you are then transitioned to your data screen. On the left-hand side, you have the connection that you established. To edit this connection, if you connected to the wrong file or you want to replace it with a different file, you simply select the drop-down and then you select Edit Connection. The data set that we're working with, as well as the data that was in this folder, there was only one file. However, if there were multiple tabs or multiple tables within your data set, you would see a list of those on the left-hand side. For CSV files, you would see a list of every single data set that was within this folder that you connected to. For Excel files, you're going to see a list of every single tab that is available at the bottom of your spreadsheet. And for databases, you will see a list of every single table that is available within the data connection that you've established. So as I mentioned, we only have one file within this folder, so that's why you're only seeing one file here. So also, because there's only one file, Tableau has automatically placed this data within our data model section. However, if there were multiple files, you could simply drag the one that you want to start to analyze, or if you need to do joins or unions. Joins means you're joining two data sets together on a common field. Unions means you're stacking those two data sets on top of each other based off of similar columns. You could do that in this data model section as well. We'll keep it simple for this demo. There's only one data set, so Tableau automatically places it here. Down below that, you have a preview of your data, and it's going to preview the first 1,000 rows. So if I select Update Now, it's going to show you like that Excel, that tabular file, that tabular version down below. With this, you will notice that every single field that came in is very similar to how it was laid out in the spreadsheet. You'll also notice that there are ABCs or globes or numbers above each of these. And those are the data types that Tableau has associated with a particular field. ABC stands for string, right? So a string, that's fine. And then you have a globe here because Tableau recognizes that that is a geographical data point. And we'll get to how beneficial, these geographical data points are in a second. But we want to make sure that Tableau recognizes our cities and our states and our zips. If Tableau did not recognize your data type as the correct data type, you could simply click on the data type icon and you could go ahead and navigate to whatever the correct data type is. So here we see that Tableau has assigned the correct geographical role, so we're good to go here. But if at any point in time, say this number right here wasn't supposed to be a number, it was supposed to be a string, then we could change that. Scrolling to the right, you'll see a blue number sign here. And if you look to the left, or excuse me, to the right some more, you'll see a green number sign here. And the difference between that is simply your dimensions versus your measures, your quantitative versus your qualitative data. Tableau sees that this data type is a number, however, it's a code. And essentially, you cannot aggregate codes. You cannot sum up all of the codes because they're identifiers. So that's why Tableau has assigned it a blue number sign, meaning that it's going to be a dimension. However, jobs retained, you can aggregate that. You can take the sum of that, right? You can maybe take the median, the average. So that's why Tableau has assigned it a green number sign, letting you know that this is going to come in as what we call a measure. It's your quantitative data. All right. And then if you scroll some more to the right, Tableau also can read dates, which is going to be important because you can create date hierarchies within Tableau. So if you have a date, you also want to make sure that Tableau recognizes it as a date. From there, before we transition to start to now analyze this data, up top in the right-hand corner, you'll see two connection types and a filter type. A live connection is going to, as it says, have a live connection to your data set. Meaning if I were to edit any of the rows in that Excel file or that CSV and I saved it, it can auto update within Tableau. An extract of the data is going to create a snapshot or a subset of that data and store it locally on your computer in the form of a Tableau data extract. Typically, you use extracts if you're connecting to large amounts of data on a server because you don't want to continue to ping the server or query the server every time you bring in a new data point that you want to analyze. And then to the right of that, you see your filter section. And these are your highest levels of filtering within Tableau. They're called your data source filters. So if there was any data that you just wanted to exclude within your data set before your analysis, you would add in a data source filter, and that's going to stop the data from coming into your analysis screen. Alrighty, I know I said a lot, and now let's go ahead and get into the good stuff. So once you validate, everything on your data connection screen, in the bottom left-hand corner, it shouts out to you, go to worksheet. So here's where you select sheet 1, and it's now going to take you into the Tableau interface. So I'll explain kind of what's going on here, and then we'll start to analyze some of this data that we have within this data set. On the left-hand side, I refer to this as your data pane. It contains all of your dimensions and your measures. When you bring data into Tableau, that's how it divides it into dimensions and measures. And the divider line is this really light gray line that you see here, right? So everything that is green down below is considered a measure. Everything that is blue up top is considered a dimension. If any data point came in wrong, say for instance, this code came in as a measure, you could simply just click and drag it, up or down below, and you can adjust to being a dimension or a measure, right? Other things that you'll see that weren't a part of the data set, but now are within our data pane are measure names, measure values, longitude and latitude, and then we have a count here. Your measure names and your measure values are auto-generated fields that allow you to display multiple measures at one time. Your latitude and longitude are auto-generated because Tableau recognized that you had geographical data point associated with your data. However, you did not have the latitude and longitude. So the tool is smart enough to auto-generate the latitude and the longitude for you. Now, this last data point that you see here is simply a count of all of the records that are within the data set. So what it's doing is it's assigning a value of 1 to every single row within your spreadsheet. And if you wanted to see how many businesses received a loan, you would simply just take the count of every single record that was in that spreadsheet, assuming that one line is representative of one business. So you have unique lines. Now up top is your toolbar. So I'll refer to this as your toolbar, where you can undo. You have unlimited undos. You can save, you can connect to new data sources. You can create a new worksheet or a new dashboard, which I'll get to in a second. You can duplicate everything. You can clear everything. Once we start creating our visualizations, you have some easy sort buttons that are up top. You have a highlight button. You have a view button where you can change the view that is displayed for your chart to either fit the standard mode, which is your default, fit the width, which will take up the entire width of your canvas here, fit height, which is going to take up the entire height, or fit entire view, which will take up the entire view. And then you also have your cards and your shelves, and then your full screen mode, your presentation mode, right? Now, within our canvas, I like to call this like our drawing area, right? So you think of an artist that is painting, and they have a canvas, and they're dragging things onto their canvas. I like to think of this as the canvas is where we're going to paint the picture, and the colors and the paintbrush and the things that we need in order to do it are everything that you see up top or everything that you see down below. So this is your canvas area. Your marks card is your canvas area. This is how you're going to color your charts. Columns on your rows are how you're going to display your charts, right? So typically in Tableau, you're analyzing data. And when you start analyzing data, whether or not you know it, you're asking a question about a particular data point, right? So you're not just dragging things randomly on here. Hopefully you're not. You have a question that you either stated out loud or you have within that you want to know the answer to. So when I look at this data set, the first question that comes to mind is how many businesses receive loans? As I mentioned before, this field right here provides a 1 for every single row in our data set, so it's going to count all of the businesses. So if you wanted to ask the question of how many businesses received a loan, you could simply take this field that you see here, and you can drag it to either rows or columns. And what that does is it creates one single bar, right? And if you hover over the bar, you see that within this data set, there were 661,218 businesses that received loans, right? If you did not want to display an axis, this axis that's here, and you just wanted to display a standard number, you wouldn't drag this to columns or rows. You would take this to label on your marks card, and that's what's going to take away the axis and provide you with the standard number. As I mentioned before, your marks card allows you to edit the way something looks, the way your mark type looks. Columns or rows allows you to draw your chart. So in this one, we just want to provide a label or one number that represents the total number of businesses. If I wanted to edit this number the way that this number looks, I can click on text on the marks card and open up the 3 dots. And here I have a label editor. The gray information is the field information. It's the dynamic count. So you don't want to, take away any of these greater than or less than signs that are at the end of it, because it will no longer be dynamic. If it's gray, that means it's dynamic. Tableau understands that this is a data point. And we can go ahead and take that data point up to about 20. And underneath it, we can say total businesses. And I'll change this to about 8, maybe 9. And as you see, the fit that I have for the screen right now is a little too small for the numbers that need to be displayed. So that's why I see those number signs right there. But if I change this to entire view, you see I have the information now displayed. It's aligning to the right of the chart. If I want to align it in the center, once again, our marks card allows us to change the way that our data looks within the screen or within our canvas. I can simply select text again on the marks card, select alignment, I can horizontally align as well as vertically align, right? The information that appears when I hover over this chart is called the tooltip. Tableau automatically generates tooltips so that if you do not have like labels on your bars, if your end users hover over those bars, they can automatically see the data that is represented in that bar. You can turn off the tooltip or you can add to the tooltip by either dragging additional information just to tooltip, or if you wanted to turn off your tooltip, you can select tooltip and deselect show tooltips. And now we have a standard number that doesn't have a tooltip associated with it. To rename your worksheet, you double click on the tab for it, and I will call this one number of businesses. All right, so the next thing that we want to do is have another number or further analyze this data, right? So what if we want to look at, let's see, where the businesses are located? We don't want to adjust this sheet right here, right? We want to create a new worksheet, a new canvas to paint on. So down below, you see 3 tabs, a worksheet, a dashboard, and a story. Worksheets create a singular view, right? Dashboards allow you to combine those views together, and stories allow you to either have one dashboard or one worksheet and put them in a sequential order, very similar to that of a PowerPoint, to tell a story. That's the name of the view there. So right now, we don't want to combine anything together. We want to just create a new view. So I'm going to go ahead and select new worksheet. And the question that I asked was, where were these businesses located at? So what states were they in that received the most loans, right? So where are the majority of these businesses at? The easiest way to auto-generate a map, I want to represent this data as a map, is to take a geographical field and drag it to your marks card. Or you can take latitude and longitude to columns or rows. I prefer to just have Tableau generate the map automatically for me. So I'm going to go ahead and take state and drag that to detail on the marks card. And with that, Tableau now has a map that is auto-generated, and a point is every dot that is on the map represents a state that is within our data set. There's one unknown state, so obviously Tableau just couldn't recognize one state. We can click on that and we can say, edit location, and see exactly what that location was. So I'm guessing XX was just, data, messy data that wasn't reported. So we can press cancel here, click on that again and say filter data, and now it's going to exclude that particular data point. So this is a cool map, but it's not telling me anything. The only thing it's telling me is that these were all of the states that are listed here, right? The size of the circle doesn't represent anything. The color doesn't represent anything. So if I want to understand how many businesses were located in each of these states, I need to add that data point to my canvas. So for a map, the best way to add a data point to the canvas is to go ahead and drop it on your marks card. So if I take this count of businesses and I drag that to color, The map automatically colors now to represent the number of businesses that are located in each of the states. And we can easily see that California had the most number of businesses within this data set. Now, Tableau automatically, includes Alaska as a rather large state. So if we wanted to zoom around, we can click on our toolbar, our map toolbar, select the four-headed arrow and zoom around. We can also I'm using my mouse to zoom in and zoom out. So you can zoom in and zoom out and adjust the map to take up the screen however you wish. So pretty cool map, right? Here, the darker the blue, the higher the number of businesses that are located in there. If you wanted to change the color of your map, you can easily select color on your marks card. Remember, I'm going to keep referring back to the marks card because it's what's going to allow me to adjust or format my canvas. And when I select color, I see edit color come here, and we could change the color of this to be whatever we please. By selecting the square next to the end of the scale, I can change this to maybe a darker blue that I want to work with, right? Just a different blue. You press OK, press apply, and now you have a different shading for your map, and the blue sticks out a little bit more, the darker blue sticks out a little bit more than the default blue that was there. All righty, so some people do not like to see the additional countries that are there. They just want to focus on the United States, especially for a data set that only pertains to the US. So to edit your map even further and edit the layers of your map, you go ahead and select map in your toolbar up top, and then you select map layers, and on the left-hand side, you can adjust how your map looks in terms of the layers. You can change the style of this to have a dark style. You can change it to a normal map. You can change it to a street map, which only works when you actually zoom into the map. So it provides street level information, very similar to that of Google Maps, but I'm gonna go ahead and leave this as light. You can take off the country borders and the country names. You can take off the base of the map, which is that gray that you saw in the background. You can take off the land cover for the map. You can take off the state and province names, and you can also get rid of this. And there you have a clean map, right? So I just got rid of all of the layers, and now I have a clean map that is left. So I'm actually going to leave the map as it is because the tooltip is here and it provides us with the context that we need. So I don't want to clutter this map and label every single point on the map because some states are smaller than the others. So I'm not going to clutter this map. So I'm just going to leave it with the tooltips and rename this businesses per state. Now, there's another story that comes to mind. There's another question that I want to ask. So I'm going to go ahead and create a new worksheet. Now, the next question that comes to mind is how many businesses received the various loan ranges. So there were various loan ranges that were part of the data set. You had your 5 to 10 million, your 2 to 5, your 1 to 2, your 350 to 1 million, your 150 to 350. So if we want to answer that question, we simply take loan range and drag it to rows. And the best form or the best visualization that's going to answer that question is a bar chart, right? It quickly lets you rank your data and see your highs and your lows. It's one of my favorite chart types. So here, to create a bar chart, I simply placed a loan range on rows, and then I'm going to go ahead and take that count of businesses again and drag that to columns. And as we can see here, the majority of the businesses were within this 150 to 350 range. Now, here's a chart where we can add labels to it, right? Because every single row is not going to impact the other row. So we can add labels and actually add the count of businesses that fall within each of these loan ranges. There are several ways that you can label your visualization. Up top in your quick toolbar, you can select the show mark labels button here, and whatever measure you're using in your visualization, Tableau is going to automatically display the label for it. If you didn't want to go that route and you wanted to edit how that label looked, you would have to take that label and drag it to label on your marks card. And it's going to once again provide you with the label, the same information, but you can now edit that label, right? You can even sort this from highest to lowest, or because it's already labeled A, B, C, D, E, I would actually leave this as is, right? Now, personally, I've been doing data visualization for a little while. I've been doing a lot of research and a lot of studying with it. And typically, you don't want to duplicate information, right? So the information that is duplicated here is the labels that's on the end of the bar as well as the axis. Typically, you have an axis on a chart if you do not have labels for it. And your users are going to have to take the end of the chart and look down to the axis to get an accurate or somewhat of a representation of how much that bar represents. So in this instance, we don't need to duplicate information. So to hide an axis within Tableau, you simply right click on the axis and you deselect show header, and it's going to go ahead and hide that axis. So this chart works for me. I'm going to name it business, I'm just going to say business per loan range. All right, and let's go ahead and create a new worksheet and continue to ask and answer questions about this data set. Another question that I had in looking at this data set were which lenders gave to the most businesses, right? So there's a data field here that says lender, and we can go ahead and drag that to rows. And we have a list of every single lender that was in that data set. And we want to know the number of businesses that that lender gave to. So we can take that count of businesses again, drag that to columns. And now because we have a ton of lenders, this is a chart that we definitely want to sort from highest to lowest. So to do that, I'll refer back to the toolbar again. And here we have a sort button. You have your descending sort and your ascending sort. So we'll select the descending sort, and boom, just like that, we can see that JP Morgan, Chase Bank, National Association had or gave the highest loans, or gave the majority of the loans. Now I'm simply just making space for my headers here by hovering in the header section and dragging down just to provide a little bit more row height for the lender name, especially because some of them are long and I want them to wrap on the next line. So with that, just like that, we're able to even further analyze this data. And to display the labels again, let's see if you know it, it's show mark labels up top, or you can drag count of your rows to marks here. Now, as I mentioned before, we do not want to see the axis when we have the labels displayed here. So I'm going to go ahead, right click on that again, and deselect show header. So we already have some questions that we're answering here. We have the number of businesses. We have the businesses per state, and we saw that California was the highest. We have the businesses per loan range. We have the number of loans per lender. And then another question that we might have of this data set is, I'm looking at my notes here because I was analyzing this data, is the business type, right? So which business types receive these loans? And there is a business type field that is here, right, on rows. And we can go ahead and drag that to rows, and we can see a unique list of all the business types that are listed here. And by dragging that count in there again, we can see that a corporation as well as a LLC and a subchapter S Corp are the ones that are the highest. And we can sort this from highest to lowest as well, and see that Corp was the highest, and we can see how they essentially rank against each other. Go ahead and display that label again, and hide your header. So these are businesses per business type. We are about to pull this all together and create a story, because essentially you have 5 different stories. So we're going to just put it all together in the form of a dashboard that your users can interact with, and that'll be it.
Cool.
Alrighty. So we have the data points that we are, that we want to analyze, that we want to tell our story with. The next part is you typically want to put it together, right? So when you present to your end users, sometimes you're presenting in the form of like an infographic, or sometimes you're presenting in the form of a PowerPoint. In Tableau, your presentation is in the form of a dashboard. So if you go ahead and select not the first tab, but the second tab here, you're going to see a dashboard screen, and it looks a little bit differently from what a worksheet screen looks like. On the left-hand side, we no longer have a data pane, we have our dashboard pane. And within our dashboard pane, we have a list of all of the worksheets that we just created. Now, your dashboard pane serves as your canvas, and it allows you to tell your story. So the first thing with your story you want to do is you want to add your dashboard title. To edit your dashboard title, you simply click on the dashboard one, and you can edit your title here. We can say PPP loans greater than 150. So that's your dashboard title. Next, you can continue to add to your canvas. So if you wanted to look at the number of businesses and you wanted to have that as like a default here, you can go ahead and add that. I'm going to add it right to my title area, right to the right of it. And drag this here, hide this, and drag this up. And now we have the number of businesses, and I'm gonna go ahead and right align this one actually so that it fits right in the corner. All right, so now we can add our additional worksheets here. We can add our state to the canvas, our states. We have a legend that appears. I'm gonna go ahead and make this floating so that I can float it next to my map in the bottom left-hand corner. We can have our businesses per loan range right to the right of that. Remember I said you can adjust your fit of your worksheets up top. So we can change this to entire view. Right below that, we can have our lenders, number of loans per lender, and then our business type. I'll actually move this one here, move this up. And you're trying to just snap everything to a grid. And there you have your visualization. It's a very rough visualization, but it kind of tells that story that you're looking to tell. Now you can go ahead and add in some dashboard actions. And what that allows you to do is it allows your end users to filter everything that's on the dashboard. So if you wanted your users to click on the businesses that received $5 to $10 million and start to analyze and find out more information about those businesses, you could go ahead and select the use as filter icon next to any of your worksheets, and it's going to use that filter for the entire dashboard. So watch what happens when I click it, and then I click on this 4,840 businesses that had this particular loan range. It now filters the data set, right? So California was still the highest, JP Morgan Chase was still the highest, but now we can dive a little bit more into our data. We can do the same thing for our business type chart. And if we wanted to understand which businesses received the loans that were joint ventures, we can do that as well. And we can see joint ventures received 150 to 350 as the majority as well. And we can see that Texas was actually the highest for them. So in short, typically in Tableau, what you're doing is you're analyzing data, you're asking those questions, you're creating those worksheets. And then once you have those stories together, you're bringing it all together in the form of a dashboard. As I mentioned, that was a very rough dashboard, but here's just a look at some of the dashboards that you can create through formatting and just adjusting some of the colors of some things. You can create some really compelling stories before you publish them out or before you share them with your end user. So it doesn't have to look and feel like the one that we just created. That was the default one. There are some really amazing design things that you can do with Tableau once you have that story that you're ready to tell. And with that, I will turn it back over to you all and open it up for any questions that you have.
Okay, we do have one question in chat so far from Craig. What are the in Arizona? What are the copyright issues for using Tableau in a story? Do we just need to credit Tableau?
No, you don't. When you're exporting images, you don't have to credit Tableau when you create your visualizations. Essentially, when you have your when you download Tableau as Tableau Desktop, like it's you kind of owning whatever visualizations you produced out of that. So I've seen a lot of companies use it, publish it on their own website. And when you embed it on a website, the Tableau logo is going to be at the bottom. So you don't have to reference anything because it's already there.
Okay, next question from Peter in Illinois. How do I move the final image or graphic onto a website?
All righty, so you publish this. So typically your website is to the public. So this is one of the benefits of using Tableau Public. So you can create a Tableau Public account for free. you can save it to your Tableau public account. And once you publish it to Tableau public, it's going to send you to the link for it. And for this visualization, once you publish it, if you wanted to embed this on a website, every visualization that you publish to Tableau Public has an embed code that is down below when you select share, and you would use this embed code on your website. I've done it for my own website, so this is typically how you go that route, publishing it on your website. If it's an internal website for your company, then you're going to need to use Tableau Server or Tableau Online, which is the organization or the enterprise version of Tableau Server. So you wouldn't publish it to Tableau Public, but you would want to get it onto your internal server. So you'd have to go the Tableau Online or the Tableau Server route.
Okay, Craig asked a follow-up. So no one can see your work until you publish, correct?
You can share your work in the form of images. You can share your work in the form of PDFs or PowerPoint. So you can select dashboard, export image. You can say file, print to PDF. You can also share this workbook if the individual has Tableau as well, so they can open it up locally. Or Tableau Reader is the equivalent of Adobe Reader. So after you create a PDF and you don't want somebody to edit it, you want them to interact and be able to view it, they use Adobe Reader. There's also Tableau Reader where they can download it and you can send them the workbook. They won't be able to edit or analyze any of the data, but they will be able to interact with it.
I have another one, just kind of on general graphics philosophy. Most of our fellows here they're not the graphics people in the news organizations, they're reporters, but who might have used to create these. What are some simple tips about, what novice data visualizers, what are some mistakes that they made or tips that they should be aware of about what kind of graphics work or what kind of graphics don't work because they're too cluttered? I mean, are there any general tips you have?
So typically, for someone new who's creating a visualization, I say don't overcomplicate it, right? A lot of visualizations that I create contain a ton of bar charts. I just format those bar charts to look really neat. But you have to understand that a lot of readers do not necessarily have the data literacy or the visualization literacy that you might expect them to have. So I always say use a simpler chart or the best chart to portray your information. Don't overcomplicate it. You have to always give it the grandma test, right? If my grandmother can understand what's being portrayed, then that's a good visualization to me. If she can't, then you may want to tweak your visualization. Also say don't overcomplicate colors. With colors, sometimes we need to add colors to everything. Think about adding colors strategically. What needs to be color? What are you trying to highlight, right? So with this map, we were trying to highlight which states were the highest. So that's the reason we added color to it. So don't overcomplicate colors. I think those are the main things. Make sure you're testing for accessibility as well. Just because you can see it doesn't mean that a person that might have a vision deficiency can see it as well. Those are just some of the main principles. I do a series of talks on design secrets for a non-designer because I don't consider myself a designer either. So I try to give tips and tricks for individuals who also don't consider themselves a designer. And if you're interested in learning more about some of those tips and tricks, the website is designsecretsforanondesigner.com. And I have a ton of videos where I talk about some of these other things for beginners.
Designsecretsforanondesigner.com?
Yep.
Okay. Are there are there record limitations in Tableau? Like Excel is limited at 1 million records. What's that in Tableau?
Nope, there's no record limit in Tableau. I would say the larger your data set, though, the more cautious you want to be with using a live connection. I just finished working with a client earlier today that had about 18 million records that were a part of their data set. So you just want to make sure that either you have a really fast database, like one that can process queries if you do have a live connection and have a bunch of data, or you want to make sure that you are extracting that data and allowing Tableau to store it locally within their own database file on your computer so that you can process those records. But you saw we had 661,000 records here, and that processed really fast. So no, there isn't a record limit.